Captain Marcus Chen stood in the airlock of the Krivaxian flagship, his heart beating faster than he wanted to admit. Through the transparent metal, he could see the massive chamber beyond. Everything gleamed with silver and purple light. The walls curved in ways that hurt his eyes to follow. This was it. First contact with one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. The airlock opened with a sound like singing crystal. Marcus stepped through, his dress uniform suddenly feeling very plain and simple. A line of tall figures waited for him. The Krivaxians stood at least 7 feet tall, their skin shimmering with colors that shifted between blue and violet. They wore robes that seemed to float around them without touching the ground. "Captain Chen of Earth," a voice said, coming from everywhere at once. "You stand before the eternal court of Krivax. Approach the throne." Marcus walked forward, his boots clicking on the floor. Every step echoed in the enormous room. Above him, the ceiling disappeared into darkness filled with tiny lights like stars. Hundreds of Krivaxians watched from balconies on every side. He had studied their culture for months, learned their basic language, practiced their breeding customs. He knew this moment could change everything for humanity. At the end of the long hall, Queen Velsaria sat on a throne made of something that looked like frozen light. She was ancient. Marcus could see it in her eyes, even though her face looked young. Those eyes had seen centuries pass. She watched him approach with the patience of someone who had all the time in the world. Marcus stopped at the proper distance and performed the Krivaxian bow. He placed his right hand over his heart and lowered his head, but kept his eyes up. To look away completely would show weakness. To stare would show disrespect. He had practiced this hundreds of times. "Your Majesty," he said in Krivaxian, his accent careful and precise. "I bring greetings from Earth and all of humanity. We are honored by this meeting." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "You speak our language," she said. "That is unexpected. Most primitives cannot master our tones." Marcus kept his face neutral. He had been warned. The Krivaxians saw themselves as superior to almost everyone. "We believe understanding is the first step to friendship, Your Majesty." "Friendship," the Queen repeated, and something that might have been amusement touched her lips. "Tell me, Captain Chen, how long has your species traveled the stars?" 300 years, Your Majesty." 300. She leaned back. "We have been traveling for over 5,000 years. Our empire spans 47 star systems. Our people live for thousands of years. Our technology can reshape planets. And you propose a marriage alliance? You propose that I bind my bloodline to creatures who barely live a century?" Marcus felt the insult like a slap, but he kept his voice steady. "Your Majesty, we may be young among the stars, but we have learned much in our short time. We have survived wars that nearly destroyed us. We have rebuilt from ashes multiple times. We have developed technologies that some older races said were impossible." "Because you are desperate," the Queen said. "Because you burn through your brief lives trying to accomplish what we achieve through patience and time. You are like candles, Captain, bright for a moment, then gone." From somewhere to the side, Marcus heard a small sound. He glanced briefly and saw a younger Krivaxian woman, her robes marking her as royalty. She was watching him with intense violet eyes that seemed different from the others. There was curiosity there, not contempt. "Perhaps, Your Majesty," Marcus said, turning back to the Queen, "but even a candle can light a fire. Even a brief flame can warm those nearby." He took a careful breath. "My people have a saying. We measure worth not in years, but in what we do with the time we have." The Queen's expression did not change. "Pretty words, but words are wind." She stood, and everyone in the chamber bowed. "I have reviewed your proposal. I have studied your species' short history. You are violent. You are fractured. Even now, your world is not fully united. You fight among yourselves over resources, over beliefs, over pieces of land. We do, Marcus admitted. We are not perfect, but we are trying to be better. Trying is not succeeding. The Queen raised one hand. The Kryvaxian Empire rejects your proposal for alliance through marriage. You are too young, too volatile, too brief to be worthy partners for an eternal empire. Take this message back to your leaders. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, when you have proven you can survive your own nature, we will speak again. The dismissal was absolute. Marcus felt the weight of it settle on his shoulders. Without this alliance, Earth would be isolated. The other major powers in the galaxy all had relationships with Kryvax. Being rejected by them meant being shut out from so much. But Marcus would not beg. He straightened his spine and bowed once more. I understand, Your Majesty. Thank you for considering our proposal. He started to turn, then paused. May I say one thing more? The Queen looked annoyed, but nodded. You have built an empire that will last forever, Marcus said. That is truly impressive. But I wonder if something that lasts forever can still grow, can still change, can still surprise itself. He met her eyes. My people might not live long, but every generation we become something new. We never stop changing, because we cannot afford to stop. Perhaps that is not weakness. Perhaps that is just a different kind of strength. The Queen said nothing. The silence stretched out, heavy and thick. Finally she waved her hand. You are dismissed, Captain Shen. Marcus bowed and turned to leave. As he walked back down the long hall, he felt those violet eyes on him again. The young princess was watching him with an expression he could not quite read. It looked almost like hope. The airlock closed behind him, and Marcus let out a long breath. He had failed. Earth had gambled everything on this alliance, and he had failed. He would have to return home with nothing but rejection. But something nagged at his mind. That look in the princess's eyes. That moment of connection. He did not know what it meant yet. Marcus sat in his assigned quarters on the Kryvaxian flagship, packing his few belongings. The room was beautiful, but cold. Everything was made of materials he did not recognize, glowing softly with inner light. He would leave in the morning. The failure tasted bitter in his mouth. Earth needed this alliance desperately. The galaxy was dangerous, and humanity was still so new to it. Other species had formed alliances that shut humans out of trade, out of treaties, out of the networks that kept civilizations safe. The Kryvaxian rejection would make everything worse. A soft chime sounded at his door. Marcus frowned. It was late by ship time. He was not expecting visitors. Enter, he said, standing up. The door opened with that crystal singing sound, and the princess stepped inside. Marcus recognized her immediately. Those violet eyes. She moved quickly into the room, and the door closed behind her. Your Highness, Marcus said, bowing quickly. I did not expect. Be quiet, she said, but not unkindly. She looked around the room, then at him. My mother has sensors everywhere, but I have disabled the ones in this section for the next hour. We do not have much time. Marcus stayed very still. This could be a trap, or a test, or something worse. My name is Kalith, the princess said. I am the Queen's youngest daughter. I have been studying your species for decades. Decades? Marcus tried to remember how old she might be. Kryvaxians lived for thousands of years. Someone young to them could still be. I am 120 years old, Kalith said, as if reading his thoughts. Young by our standards, practically a child. She moved closer. I have listened to every human transmission we could intercept. I have studied your history, your art, your music, your wars. You fascinate me. Why? Marcus asked. Because you should not exist, she said simply. By every logical measure, your species should have destroyed itself 12 times. Your planet is harsh. Your people are divided. You have no natural psionics, no genetic advantages. You live such brief lives. Yet you not only survive, You thrive. You spread across your solar system in barely 2 centuries. You reach the stars. You do what takes other species millennia, and you do it in decades. Marcus felt pride warm his chest, but he kept his voice careful. Your mother does not seem impressed. My mother is afraid, Caliph said, and that shocked Marcus into silence. She will not admit it, but I know her. She fears what she cannot control. She fears change, and you humans are nothing but change. She walked to the window that showed the stars outside. Her robes moved around her like water. Your Highness, Marcus said, why are you here? Why risk coming to me? Caliph turned back to him, because I want to understand. My mother rejected you based on numbers, on calculations, on fear, but I want to know the truth. She stepped closer again. Prove to me that your species is not just lucky. Show me why we should reconsider. Marcus thought carefully. What could he say that would matter? How could he make someone who would live for thousands of years understand what it meant to live less than 100? Let me tell you a story, he said finally. 200 years ago, humans nearly destroyed themselves. We call it the collapse. Wars over resources, over ideology, over land, nuclear weapons, biological weapons. Nearly 3 billion people died. Caliph's eyes widened slightly. We should have ended there, Marcus continued. By all logic, we should have fallen into permanent darkness. But we did not. We rebuilt. We looked at the ashes and said, no, we will try again. We will do better. He met her eyes. 50 years later, we reached Mars. 75 years later, we had colonies on 3 moons. 100 years later, we broke the light barrier. We turned our greatest disaster into our greatest motivation. That is insane, Caliph whispered. Maybe, Marcus said, but it is who we are. We fail, we fall, we get back up, we learn, we adapt, we change. He gestured around the beautiful ship. You have had 5,000 years to build this. It is magnificent. But tell me honestly, how much has Kryvaxian technology changed in the last 1,000 years? Caliph was quiet for a long moment. Not much, she admitted. We perfect what we have. We improve incrementally. But true innovation, true change, she trailed off. You are stable, Marcus said. Eternal, powerful. We are none of those things. But we move fast. We think differently. We take risks because we have to. We cannot afford to wait 1,000 years for the perfect solution. Why not? Caliph asked. Because we will be dead, Marcus said simply. We have 70, maybe 80 years if we are lucky. We do not have time to be careful. We do not have time to be patient. So we try things. We fail often. But when we succeed quickly. Caliph moved to the window again. I have never met anyone who speaks of death so casually. It is always with us, Marcus said, joining her. Every human knows that their time is limited. It makes us intense. We love harder because we do not have forever. We create with urgency. We fight desperately for what we believe in because we only get one chance. That sounds exhausting. It is, Marcus agreed. But it also makes us alive in a way that is hard to explain. Caliph turned to look at him, really look at him. My people have forgotten what it means to be urgent. We have all the time in the world, so we never hurry. We never take risks. We never... She stopped. We are stagnating. I have been saying this for years, but no one listens to someone my age. What do you mean? Marcus asked. Our birth rates are declining. Our creativity is slowing. Our people spend centuries doing the same things over and over. We are becoming crystallized, beautiful but static. She touched the window. We need something to shake us awake. We need change. You need humans, Marcus said quietly. Perhaps, Caliph said, but my mother will never agree. She sees only danger. Then what do we do? Marcus asked. Caliph was quiet for a long time. Then she straightened. and Marcus saw determination in her eyes. There is an old law, the right of personal challenge. If a member of the royal family believes the queen has made a decision that endangers the empire, they can invoke it. You would have to pass 3 trials. If you succeed, I can override my mother's decision and establish the alliance myself. Marcus felt his heart race. And if I fail? Then humanity will be blacklisted from galactic politics for 100 years. No trade, no treaties, no contact. It was an enormous gamble. But what choice did they have? The rejection had already damaged Earth's position. This was a chance, however slim. What are the trials? Marcus asked. I do not know yet. They are chosen by the Council to test different aspects of worthiness. But they will be hard, Captain Chen, designed to prove or disprove your entire species' value. Marcus looked out at the stars. He thought of Earth, of the billions of people depending on him, of the future that could be won or lost. I will do it, he said. Kalith smiled for the first time, and it transformed her face. Good. I will begin the formal challenge tomorrow. Prepare yourself, Captain. You are about to show the galaxy what humans can do. She moved toward the door, then paused. Thank you, she said softly. For what? Marcus asked. For helping me remember why I believe in change. Then she was gone, and Marcus was alone with his thoughts and a challenge that would determine the fate of his entire species. The council chamber was packed with Kryvaxians from across the empire. News of the personal challenge had spread quickly. Now everyone wanted to see the human who dared to claim his species deserved an alliance. Marcus stood in the center of a circular platform. Above him, the council members sat in floating seats arranged in a ring. Queen Velsaria was there too, her face carved from ice. Princess Kalith stood to the side, her hands clasped together. The first trial, announced the council leader, an ancient Kryvaxian named Torvek. The Battle of Minds. Captain Chen will face our greatest military strategist in simulated combat. He must achieve victory, or show strategic brilliance worthy of alliance. A holographic display activated around Marcus. Suddenly he was standing on a virtual battlefield. Hills, forests, and rivers spread out in all directions. Thousands of tiny soldiers in blue armor appeared at his command. Across the field, red soldiers appeared for his opponent. General Krevath materialized next to the Red Army. He was massive, even for a Kryvaxian, with scars that glowed silver on his dark blue skin. Human, he said, his voice like grinding rocks. I have fought 1,000 battles over 300 years. Show me what you can do. The simulation began. Marcus immediately saw the problem. The enemy had more soldiers, better weapons, and higher ground. By every normal measure, he should lose. General Krevath attacked exactly as Marcus expected, a massive frontal assault with overwhelming force. It was the Kryvaxian way. Use superior numbers and technology to crush the enemy. No tricks, no deception, just pure power. Marcus smiled. He had studied their tactics. He knew what they could not imagine. He split his forces into small groups and scattered them. The general looked confused. You divide your strength. I am adapting, Marcus said. His small units hit the enemy's supply lines. They struck from unexpected angles. They used the terrain to hide and ambush. Every time the general sent a force to crush one group, 2 others would appear somewhere else. It was guerrilla warfare, something humans had perfected through centuries of desperate conflicts. Stand and fight, the general demanded, frustrated. Why? Marcus asked. You are stronger in direct combat, so I will not fight directly. The general tried everything. Massive sweeps, defensive positions, air superiority. But Marcus kept changing tactics. He was never where the enemy expected. He never fought the battle they were prepared for. Finally, Marcus's scattered forces had destroyed enough supply depots that the general's army started to weaken. Then Marcus did something the Krivaxians never expected. He offered surrender terms. What? General Krevath looked shocked. You have lost your supply lines, Marcus explained. In 3 days your army will starve. I am offering you a chance to retreat with honor, rather than force you to watch your troops die slowly. The general stared at him. In Krivaxian culture, you fought until victory or death. Surrender was shameful. But preventing unnecessary death, that was something they had not considered. The simulation ended. The council members were silent. Then Torvek spoke. General Krevath, your assessment. The general looked at Marcus with new respect. He did not fight our battle. He fought his own battle. He made the rules unpredictable. I could not counter what I could not predict. He bowed his head slightly to Marcus. He has won the trial of minds. The crowd murmured. Queen Velsaria's face remained cold, but Marcus saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Concern, perhaps. The second trial, Torvek announced. The test of spirit. Captain Shen will be taken to Varkesh, a tomb world in our outer territories. He must survive for 3 days in conditions that would kill most beings. Kaleth stepped forward. I invoke my right as challenger to accompany him. The council members looked shocked. The queen stood. Daughter, that is highly irregular. But not forbidden, Kaleth said firmly. The law allows it. The queen's eyes narrowed, but she sat back down. Marcus wondered what game Kaleth was playing. Hours later, Marcus stood on Varkesh, and he understood why it was called a tomb world. The wind howled with voices of the dead. The temperature swung from burning hot to freezing cold every few hours. Ruins of an ancient civilization covered the landscape, crumbling and dangerous. Kaleth stood beside him, wrapped in a protective suit. You are excellent at survival. I wanted to see it myself, Marcus said. If something happens to you, then my mother will have me executed for stupidity, Kaleth said cheerfully. But I do not think that will happen. I think you will protect me, human. It is what your species does. She was right. The first day was brutal. Sandstorms blocked visibility to nothing. Marcus found shelter in a collapsed building, using his scanner to check for structural stability. Kaleth watched him work with fascination. You move so quickly, she said. You make decisions in seconds. I have to, Marcus said, bracing a fallen beam. Humans do not have time to debate every choice. The second day, the temperature dropped dangerously. Kaleth's suit malfunctioned. She started shivering violently. Marcus immediately gave her his thermal generator, keeping only basic insulation for himself. You will freeze, she protested. I will manage, Marcus said, though his teeth were already chattering. You are more important than me. Why, she asked. Why do you say that so easily? Marcus built a fire from debris, his hands shaking from cold. On Earth, we have a saying, women and children first. We protect those we care about, even at cost to ourselves. It is not logical. It is just who we are. Kaleth was quiet, watching him work. Tell me about your family, she said softly. Marcus's hands paused. I had parents, a younger sister. They died in the Mars colony incident, 12 years ago, a reactor failure. He did not look at her. I was off-world. I could not save them. I am sorry, Kaleth whispered. I had a sister too, she said after a moment. She died 200 years ago in a war with the Kelthron Collective. She was brave and smart and kind. My mother became harder after that, more afraid. They sat together by the fire, two beings from different worlds, sharing their grief. On the third day, disaster struck. An ancient structure collapsed while they were inside it. Kaleth was trapped under debris, her leg crushed. Marcus lifted the beam off her with strength born from desperation, screaming with effort. He carried her out of the building just as the rest of it came down. She was unconscious, badly hurt. Marcus used his medical kit, his hands steady despite his fear. He had been a combat medic before becoming a diplomat. He knew how to save lives. When the rescue ship came at the end of 3 days, Caliph woke up in Marcus's arms. He had stayed awake the entire last night, keeping watch over her. "You saved me," she said, her voice weak. "Of course," Marcus said simply. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw something that made her breath catch. This human, who would live less than a century, had risked everything to protect her. Not because she was royalty, not because of politics, but because he was human, and humans protected people they cared about. "You have passed the test of spirit," she said quietly. Back on the flagship, the council agreed, but the Queen stood once more. "There is still one trial," she said coldly. "The hardest one, the trial of heart." Marcus looked at Caliph, who looked worried for the first time. Whatever came next would decide everything. The third trial took place in a chamber Marcus had not seen before. The walls were made of something that shifted and changed, showing images from his memories. His childhood on Earth, his training as a soldier, the day he learned his family had died, all of it displayed for the council to see. "The trial of heart," Torvek announced, "reveals true character. Captain Chen will face a scenario designed to test his deepest values. There is no right answer, only truth." The chamber transformed. Suddenly Marcus was standing in a simulation of a city. But this city was burning. People screamed, buildings collapsed. He could see Krivaxian civilians trapped in the destruction, calling for help. A voice echoed around him. "You have one chance to save yourself and escape. Or you can try to save these people. But if you do, you will fail this trial. The Alliance will be lost. Your species will be isolated for a century. Choose now." He ran toward the nearest trapped family. Behind him, he heard Caliph gasp. She knew what this meant. He was choosing to fail, choosing to doom the Alliance. But he was choosing to save lives. For the next hour, Marcus worked desperately. He pulled people from rubble. He carried children to safety. He went back again and again into burning buildings. The simulation was designed to be impossible, but he kept trying anyway. His body ached, his hands bled, but he did not stop. When the simulation finally ended, Marcus collapsed to his knees, exhausted. The council chamber was absolutely silent. "You chose to fail," the Queen said, her voice strange. "You knew the cost, and you chose to fail anyway." Marcus looked up at her, breathing hard. "Yes." "Why?" "Because they needed help," Marcus said simply. "I could not walk away from people who needed help, not even for my entire species. If the price of alliance is watching people die when I could save them, then the alliance is not worth having." The Queen stared at him. "That is insane. You would sacrifice billions of your own people for strangers." "I would save who I could save," Marcus said. "Right here, right now. I cannot think about billions of abstract people. I can only think about the person in front of me who needs help. That is what it means to be human." Caliph was crying. Marcus had never seen a Krivaxian cry before. The tears shimmered on her face like diamonds. "You passed," she whispered. "Marcus, you passed." "What?" Marcus looked confused. Torvek stood. "The trial of heart has no wrong answer. It only reveals character. We needed to know if you would choose power over compassion, if you would sacrifice others for personal gain. You have shown us that humans value individual lives over abstract concepts. That is unusual, but not wrong." Topic. The Queen, however, did not look pleased. She stood, her robes flowing around her like water. "The council may be satisfied, but I am not. This human has passed 3 trials, yes, but I still see a species too young, too reckless, too brief to be trusted with alliance. Mother, Kalith said, stepping forward. Please, you are wrong about them. I am your queen, Velsaria said coldly, and I am your mother. I have lived 800 years. I have seen species like the humans before. The Velkarn were just like them, short-lived, passionate, innovative. They burned so bright that they nearly destroyed us before they destroyed themselves in civil war. I will not risk that again. The Velkarn were not like humans, Kalith argued. They were conquerors. Humans are survivors. There is a difference. They are the same, the queen insisted. They will burn out. They will fade. And if we bind ourselves to them, they will take us down with them. Kalith looked at Marcus, then back at her mother. Marcus saw something change in her expression. A decision being made. Something final. Then I invoke my personal right, Kalith said, her voice shaking but firm. Under the law of sovereign choice, I renounce my position in the royal succession. I claim the right to marry as a private citizen, not as royalty. The entire chamber erupted in shock. The queen went very still, her face pale. What are you saying? Velsaria whispered. I am saying I will marry Marcus Chen, Kalith said clearly, not as a political alliance, not as a royal duty, but as myself, as Kalith, private citizen of Kryvax. She turned to Marcus. If he will have me. Marcus felt like the ground had disappeared beneath him. Your Highness, Kalith, you cannot. Do you know what you are giving up? Everything, she said simply. My position. My access to the immortality treatments that keep royalty alive for thousands of years. If I leave the succession, I leave all of that behind. I will live a normal Kryvaxian lifespan. She paused. About 80 years. Marcus's eyes widened. The same as a human. Yes, Kalith said. I will live one human lifetime. I will burn bright, instead of fading slowly over millennia. I will make every year count, because I will not have thousands of them. You taught me that, Marcus. You showed me that a brief life lived fully is worth more than an eternity of caution. Daughter, the queen said, and her voice broke. Please, do not do this. You do not understand what you are sacrificing. I understand perfectly, Kalith said, tears still on her face. I am choosing to live instead of merely existing. I am choosing passion over safety. I am choosing love over duty. Something you never allowed yourself to do. The queen flinched as if struck. What do you know of my choices? I know about Ambassador Tirval, Kalith said softly. I found the letters you kept hidden. I know you loved him. I know he was from a species that lived only 200 years. I know you chose duty over your heart, and he died alone, and you have regretted it for 600 years. The silence was absolute. The queen's face was a mask of pain. That was different, she whispered. It was exactly the same, Kalith said, and I will not make your mistake. I choose love. I choose life. I choose Marcus. She turned to him, taking his hands. If you will have me, knowing that I am giving up everything for this, knowing that we will only have 80 years together instead of thousands. Marcus looked at her, this beautiful, brave being who was willing to sacrifice eternity for a human lifetime. With him. 80 years with you, he said softly, would be better than 1,000 years with anyone else. Kalith smiled through her tears and kissed him. The first kiss between human and Kryvaxian in all of history. The queen stood frozen, watching her daughter choose the same path she had refused centuries ago. Finally she spoke, her voice empty. The council will vote on the alliance. I remove myself from the decision. I abstain. She turned and walked out of the chamber, leaving shocked silence behind her. Torvet cleared his throat. Then the council will vote, all in favor of accepting the human alliance, in light of Captain Chen's successful completion of the trials. Hands raised around the circle. Marcus held his breath. 67 in favor, Torvek announced. 33 opposed. The alliance is approved. Cheers erupted from some of the observers. Others looked troubled. Humanity had its alliance. And Marcus had found something he had never expected. Kalith held his hand tightly. No regrets? She asked quietly. None, Marcus said. You? She looked at him with those violet eyes that had first watched him with curiosity, then respect, then something deeper. I am going to live, she said. Really live. For the first time in 120 years. How could I regret that? Together they faced the future. A human and a Kryvaxian. Two species learning to understand each other, one life at a time. The wedding took place on neutral ground, a space station that orbited between Earth and Kryvaxian space. It was a ceremony like no other, blending human and Kryvaxian traditions in ways that sometimes clashed and sometimes harmonized beautifully. Marcus wore a formal suit from Earth, black with silver threading. Kalith wore robes that shifted colors like her skin, but simpler than her royal garments had been. She had given up her crown, but she looked more radiant than ever. The queen attended. She sat in the front row, her face unreadable. She had not spoken to Kalith since the council vote, but she had come. That meant something. The ceremony was conducted by both a human official and a Kryvaxian elder. They spoke of bridges between worlds, of love that transcended difference, of the future being built by two species learning to walk together. When Marcus and Kalith exchanged their vows, there was not a dry eye in the station. Even some of the stoic Kryvaxians were moved. I promise to make every day count, Kalith said, her voice clear. To live these 80 years with more joy and purpose than I lived my first 120. To love you with the intensity that humans have taught me. To burn bright beside you. I promise to show you everything beautiful about being human, Marcus said. The good and the bad. The joy and the pain. To share every moment of this brief, wonderful life with you. To make our time together matter. They kissed as husband and wife, and the crowd erupted in cheers from both species. The reception was chaotic and wonderful. Humans tried Kryvaxian food and found it strange but interesting. Kryvaxians tried human music and were shocked by how fast and loud it was. There was dancing, laughter, and the beginning of real friendship between two very different peoples. The queen approached Marcus, while Kalith was talking with some Earth ambassadors. She looked at him with those ancient eyes. Captain Chen, she said formally. Your Majesty, Marcus replied, bowing slightly. I do not approve of this, she said bluntly. I think my daughter has made a terrible mistake. I think you will hurt her, even if you do not mean to. I think watching you age and die while she has decades left will break her heart. Marcus met her eyes. You are probably right. That surprised her. You admit it? Life hurts, Marcus said quietly. Love means opening yourself to loss. Every human knows this. We love anyway. We love because of it, not in spite of it. The pain is part of what makes it real. The queen was silent for a long moment. You are very young to understand such things. I am 34, Marcus said. By my species measure, that is young. But I have lived through war, loss, and grief. I have learned that time does not determine wisdom. Experience does. Tyrval used to say something similar, the queen said softly, and Marcus knew she was talking about the ambassador she had loved and lost. He told me that his people measured life in moments, not years. I did not understand. I thought I had all the time in the world to be with him, to choose him. She looked away. I was wrong. It is not too late, Marcus said gently. You could still choose differently. You can still choose to live, not just exist. The queen looked at him sharply. He has been dead for 600 years. I know, But there are other ways to live, other ways to honor him. You could let go of fear. You could embrace change. You could be the queen who learned from humans instead of the queen who rejected them. For a moment, Marcus thought she would be angry, but instead, she laughed. It was a small, sad sound, but it was real. "My daughter chose well," she said. "You are insufferable, but you are wise." She looked at Kalith across the room. "Take care of her, Captain Chen. Make these years worth the sacrifice." "I will," Marcus promised, "every single day." The queen nodded and walked away. It was not forgiveness, not yet, but it was a beginning. 5 years passed. The alliance between Earth and Kryvax flourished in ways no one had expected. Human innovation combined with Kryvaxian resources created technological leaps that benefited both species. Human diplomats, trained in quick thinking and adaptation, helped mediate conflicts between other species. Kryvaxian scientists, inspired by human creativity, started taking risks again, experimenting with new ideas. Marcus and Kalith became ambassadors for the Alliance. Traveling across the galaxy, they mediated a territorial dispute between the Velkarn Remnant and the Thoros Collective. They prevented a war between the mining guilds. They helped establish trade agreements that benefited dozens of species. Everywhere they went, people were fascinated by them. The human and the Kryvaxian who chose each other over empires. And then, in their 5th year together, Kalith gave birth to a daughter. The baby was impossible. Hybrid children between such different species should not exist. But human genetic flexibility, combined with Kryvaxian biotechnology, made miracles possible. The child had her mother's violet eyes and her father's dark hair. Her skin shifted colors like a Kryvaxian, but only slightly. She was beautiful and unique. They named her Lyra, after Kalith's lost sister. The medical scanners revealed something amazing. Little Lyra had the best of both species. She had human adaptability and creativity. She had Kryvaxian longevity. The doctors estimated she would live for 400 years. The literal blending of two species into something new. The queen came to visit when Lyra was 3 months old. She stood over the baby's cradle for a long time, saying nothing. Finally, she looked at Marcus and Kalith. "I was wrong," she said simply. "Mother?" Kalith asked, shocked. The queen never admitted to being wrong. "I was wrong about humans. I was wrong about this alliance. I was wrong about you." She touched the baby's tiny hand. Lyra grabbed her finger, and the queen smiled, really smiled, for the first time Marcus had ever seen. "Perhaps you primitives knew something we forgot." "What is that?" Marcus asked. "That life is not measured in years, but in love, in change, in growth, in becoming something new." She looked at her granddaughter. "She will live longer than you, Captain Chen, longer than my daughter. She will carry both your legacies into the future. That is worth more than any empire I could have built." Kalith was crying again, happy tears this time. The queen embraced her daughter for the first time in 5 years. "I am sorry," the queen whispered. "I was afraid of losing you. I thought if I held on tight enough, I could keep you safe forever. But you were never truly alive until you let go." "I learned that from humans," Kalith said. "Then I have much to learn from them too," the queen said. That night, Marcus stood on the balcony of their quarters, looking out at the stars. Kalith joined him, carrying baby Lyra. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "That we did it," Marcus said. "Against all odds, we built something that will last." "For 400 years at least," Kalith said, looking at their daughter. "She will tell our story to people we will never meet. She will carry humanity and Kryvax both into the future. And she will make her own choices," Marcus added. "Her own path. That is what children do." Lyra yawned and made a small, happy sound. She had no idea she was the bridge between two species, the living proof that differences could become strengths. Do you regret it? Marcus asked quietly. Giving up thousands of years for this? Caliph looked at him, then at their daughter, then at the stars that held so many new possibilities. I have lived more in these 5 years than I did in my first 120. I have loved, I have created, I have changed the galaxy. How could I regret that? She leaned against him, and they stood together under the stars, a human and a Krivaxian, and their impossible child. They had 75 years left together. Not thousands, not even hundreds. Just 75 brief, precious years. And they would make every single one of them count. Far below, Earth turned in space, a blue world full of short-lived, passionate beings who had taught an ancient empire what it meant to truly live. And across the galaxy, the Krivaxian Empire was changing, slowly learning that innovation and risk and urgency were not weaknesses, but gifts. The alliance was not perfect. There were still conflicts, still misunderstandings, still moments of friction between species so different. But there was also hope. There was growth. There was a future being built one day at a time. And in the end, that was all anyone could ask for. Human, or Krivaxian, or anything in between. A life lived fully, with love and purpose and the courage to choose each other across the vast distances of space. That was the real alliance, not between empires, but between hearts.